gentlemen, boys and girls, turn over videos. Welcome to another episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is our partner Anthony. This is a judo podcast for judo players by judo players. So Anthony, how you doing? How you been? You've been in Japan. Are you still jet lagged?
No, so today is actually the first day that I'm not jet lagged. It's been like what, a week and a half?
Yeah, it's been about a week and a half now. Yeah,
week and a half. I really struggled to adapt. I think as I'm getting older, it's getting harder. But I think what really was missing was I needed like to get some judo training in and also a good drinking session.
Good drink. You didn't drink it all while you're in Japan. You had all that sake.
No, once I came back, I wasn't going out. You know, like with the judo guys, I wasn't going out and drinking. And then last night I went out with my wife and we went to a brewery and then we went to like a Korean place and we ate and drank. And then I just came home and passed out and didn't wake up until like 7 this morning. So now I feel great. Yeah.
One of the interesting things about this trip for you is that you didn't do no training at all. You didn't go to I posted a thing about you in Kodokan because I asked you, could you please go and take a photo, please? But you had like no training, no judo, no martial arts at all.
Yeah, it was mostly hiking. I told you this already, but my knee locked up a couple of times while I was there from trying to get out of bed. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not a good idea to train. But anyway, as I said, I came back and I actually started training again. So I lifted weights and then I went to judo twice. And then I did randori yesterday too, and I lasted like half an hour, and then I was just like, I'm done because I feel it coming. Like my body's telling me no, because I haven't done any sort of like hard training since December, I think, because of the injury and then the traveling I did. So, yeah, so it's been a while. So my body's like, last night I was just couldn't get out of bed. I was in bed laying there like whole body sore, but it feels great, and that's probably why I had a good night to sleep. So I did judo without much problem. I'm just out of shape, so we'll see. I'm going to go to BJJ on Monday and see whether I'm going to see if it locks up or not,
because that's when your knee locks up the most.
That's when it locks up the most, when I do Newaza. But I did some light Newaza where I basically didn't knee shield at all on my right side, so I have to play half guard on my I have to play half guard on my right side now, even though usually I play half guard on my left side. And I have to butterfly sweep to my right side now instead of butterfly sweeping to the left. So yeah, we'll see. I'll just see what I can do. But
forcing you to be ambidextrous.
Yeah, basically, well, opposite of ambidextrous, because now I can only do one side, right?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess so. Yeah. That's cool. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you had a fun trip and stuff. I'm still sad your knees messed up, but hey, it is what it is.
I also want to thank the people that actually got me stuff from the Krista Deguchi clinic.
That you really wanted to go to.
Yeah. So I asked 6 people, and only 2 people actually got me a signature from her. So
that signed shirt that we got, you said that's for the dojo, right?
No, that's for me.
That's for you?
They're both for me.
Well, I'm thinking like, do you want to frame it and put it up in the dojo or something?
Sure, I'll frame it and put it up in the dojo, but I still own it.
I know, I'm asking.
Yeah, I'll frame it and put it up in the dojo. I'll do that. Because I didn't realize that, because I got an autograph on like, I don't know what it's called since I never asked for people for autographs, but it's like those white
signboards.
The signboard, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that until I shared it on my story, and someone DM'd me and was like, she wrote Anthony Sama. I was like, and then I looked at it, I was like, oh right, that kanji does say Sama. I thought it was Anthony San, right? But it's Anthony Sama. So I was like, oh, I'm definitely putting this at home. So, and it has a heart symbol on it. So
because I was thinking like, if it was for the dojo, I was thinking about buying a frame for it and pictures of our members that went and train with her, like making photos of those and put them
so the t-shirt, I'll give the t-shirt to the dojo. So I don't know how to frame a t-shirt, so you figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, but I'm glad I asked 6 people, because I don't want to ask like 1 or 2 people and then they both kind of fail and then I don't get anything. So I'm glad I asked 6 people. And to be fair, the 3rd person that didn't do it is because he went with one of the guys and saw that he got a signature on the shirt. So that's why he didn't do it. But This is how
So
you figure out who actually loves you, you know?
So you wanted 6 autographs, 6 signatures. What are you gonna do?
It's
Sell it on eBay?
backups. It's backups.
What was like funny is like when I was in Japan, I went to the Minoru Suzuki store, and my wife's cousin was with us, and she really, I guess, there's weird pinball. What do you call it? It's just a little gachapon thing, okay?
Hmm.
And if you got these special gachapons, you get it from the specialty box and stuff.
Yeah.
And
So
if you spent
it's not actual a gotcha machine. It's a gotcha box, right?
no, it's a machine. It's a machine.
Okay.
You have to
All
get these
right.
special
Yeah.
coins in and stuff. So when I was in Japan, so one, I spent enough money at the store that I actually got 2 autographed signboards of Minoru Suzuki.
Hmm.
And because we did the little gashapon thing, I also got a Minoru Suzuki T-shirt that's autographed. So I technically have 3 autographs of Minoru Suzuki now. And I've just been waiting, just wasting time and stuff. I'm being lazy a little bit, but I'm gonna frame that shirt and stuff and put the autographs inside there. So that's what I was thinking. I was looking up some prices. So if like, okay, a frame costs this much. If I buy 2, it might be a little bit cheaper. So maybe I'll buy the 2 frames now since we're gonna flip the Taguchi one.
So,
like,
yeah. Do you have
it's just funny. Like I have 3 autographs like in one day. I wish he was there, but it is what it is. And you wanted 6 autographs.
Well, it was bad. I didn't expect all. I actually did not expect all 6 to get it. I didn't even expect 2. I expected 1 person to get it out of the 6. So I was surprised. But it's funny because the episode we recorded before, what was it? The episode, one of the episodes we recorded back to back, before we left was about the seminars and instructionals, right? So for the most part, we got feedback. I got pretty good. I don't know about you, but I got pretty good feedback online from people. But where I got the negative feedback was from people in person, like people in our dojo that disagree and all that kind of, which is fine. It was civil, so I'm okay with that. It's better than getting threats that I've gotten before. But so for the most part, it was great. But the funny thing is, one of our it's not just one. There's actually 2 of our students went to one. One was a student and one is a listener. I know went to the Krista Deguchi clinic. One was up in SF. And then one was here in LA, right? So the student said she just taught everything that you taught to us in the beginner's class. So the turnover, the Ochigari, like everything she went over was basically what I showed them in class. So they're like, I didn't feel like I got anything out of it. And because of that, they opted to not go to the second day. They just like, I'm just going to go to the open mat like that we have on Sunday.
Yeah.
So they ended up going to open mat. And the people that disagreed with me were people who didn't attend my class, so they never saw that turnover before. And I swear I sent it to them on Instagram before, like the videos, but Anthony, they don't look at it. But anyway, but that aside, they're also like, yeah, it was full of kids. And it was crowded, so one of them accidentally kicked a kid in the head because of the mat space and everything. So they're like, yeah, basically everything you said in the podcast episode happened. Like, so, and one stark difference I think there was between the session in LA and the session in San Francisco was that apparently they had a Q&A session in the one in NorCal, but they didn't have a Q&A session in the one in LA.
Oh, it's interesting because they did post a little bit of the Q&A session on the gram, so I did see it there. For San Francisco. Well, it's not
for San Francisco, right?
The South Bay one.
The North. Oh, yeah. Not where I am in South Bay, but like
that's
North
real
Cal, South Bay.
Real South Bay. Not this fake Southern California. Yeah, South Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said it.
But yeah, I mean, again, if you find value in it, then sure. But so I just thought it was interesting that some people didn't find value in it, and it was my students that didn't find value in it. So anyway. I would have gone to shake her hand and all that stuff. But
yeah, like I said, like I've always said in our interview, it's more about like it's the experience of going and training with somebody at such a high level. You know, it's not about what you're going to learn. It's more like the way they teach it, the way they show stuff. It's just going there for the experience. Like I don't expect to learn anything new. That really you might, but it's more about experience.
Yeah, with the Golden State Open coming up, the Clarice Avignonu seminar, it's $250. I don't know who the hell is going to pay for that. I can't imagine myself getting anything out of it that's worth $250.
Well, the funny thing is that, okay, so that seminar will be going on the day this podcast goes out. So if we advertise it right now, people won't know about it. So yeah, this is going on probably right now as you're listening to this podcast. But here's my thing, okay? It's $250 if you do not sign up for the tournament. If you sign up for Golden State, it's only $50. All right. So I think the incentive is that if you sign up for the tournament, you get the tournament and the seminar for cheaper. Do you remember how much it cost last year when they had Marty Malloy and
I don't know, it was probably 80, 100. I just never, because that's usually what it is. I've never seen anything. I think it was free for competitors, actually.
Was it free for competitors? Okay.
I think it was free for competitors. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just an incentive of like, hey, you got this great Olympian, this great champion right here. We're going to talk about her later, actually. But this great player, one of my favorite players in the world to watch and stuff.
One of my favorite players, too. Yeah.
Yeah. She's coming out here and stuff. It's got 150 if you want to come and just train, but if you go for the tournament, it's only an extra $50. So that's what I think it's going to be about. That's what I think it's for. And
the funny thing, well, not the funny thing, but they haven't posted any like rank requirements or anything. And I'm looking at the people that have signed up already. There's like around 30 people that have signed up.
Wow, only 30.
Yeah, it's only around 30 because it's $250. On the bright side, you can think of it as like, wow, it's not that many people. I'm going to get some one-on-one time instruction from her. But on the other hand, I'm looking at the sign up, 30 people. They're all kids.
A lot of kids.
So I'm thinking, unless your kid's a little genius or something, like, how are you going to have a master class series with a bunch of like orange belt kids? It's like, I don't know. So, because they call it a master class.
Did you look? Because I forgot to look it up actually. Because I assumed it was going to be at the convention center.
I assume I didn't. They didn't really post that much information.
Okay. Because my thing is that if it's going to be at the convention center where the Golden State is,
or if they did, it's not obvious.
Yeah. So my thing is that if it's going to be at the convention center where the Golden State is, where I assume it's going to be, that's going to be like 6 mats deep. So that's going to be a huge space. Yeah. So that's why like just as many people as they want on the mat, you know.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed, back to Chris Taguchi, was when she came to LA, they fucking took her to eat sushi. I don't know why, but maybe unless she asked for it. I think that's such a
weird thing.
Stupid thing. Weird. Yeah, let's just say weird.
It's weird.
It's a weird thing to do.
Anthony,
but also because the day after was the day I came back. So I realized when I came back, she was already back in Japan driving somewhere to another part of Japan. So I'm like, wow, she must have really wanted to get out of LA. Like,
you don't know, she's busy.
There was no Q&A session, and then the next day she was like gone. So I'm like, she must have really wanted to get out of LA, because usually when other people like Neil Adams or Daria Belodid, they go to like Disneyland, they go to the observatory, they go to the beach, and
go to Universal, Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, but here she's just like, I'm going home, man. So,
I'm out of this place. So that's kind of interesting. So anything else you want to talk about? Well, actually, here's a little funny thing from our last episode. We're talking about funny things for last episodes. So you know how I talked about like I would name your class casual judo or judo for casuals.
Oh yeah,
I did get one response, being that one I don't think it's a great idea. I'm like, yes, man, screw you.
I think we heard it from the same person. So
yeah, one of our judo friends. I'm like, man, I like the name casual judo. All right, I think it's fun. All right, so you want to get us some judo news?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so the biggest judo news to come out, well, actually, there's 2 big judo news coming out right now. So the biggest one is Kayla's finally getting her UFC bantamweight title shot. Okay, she's gonna be fighting for the title at UFC 316, June 7th. Where's it gonna be at? I can't remember where. I guess I didn't write it down where it was gonna be at, but whatever. So she's gonna be fighting for the championship. That means she has to cut down again. This is the whole thing everybody's scared about. Like, this is going to be now her 3rd time in the UFC fighting, cutting down to 135. Can she do it? Is she going to be okay? Because last time there was the whole thing about, like, she got hospitalized afterwards, her last fight and stuff. She was on some IVs. Who knows? That's just like
all because of the weight cut?
Yeah, that's like all some dirt sheet stuff. You don't, like, she didn't post it, so, like, I don't know. Okay, just as what people said that they saw. But how do you think she's going to do against her next, finally getting her UFC title shot? 3rd fight in the UFC, making 35s again, 5-round fight, co-main event at 316.
I just don't want to see her do that weight cut again. Like,
you just want to be like, go win the title, then retire right afterwards?
Yeah. I just think either retire or fight somewhere else that has a higher weight category.
Well, the whole thing is like why she's doing the UFC is because she needs that UFC title. You know, even though she was a PFL, like what 3-time champion PFL, people were like, oh yeah, you're MMA champion, but you're not a UFC champion.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it'll change if she gets. I just don't want to see her do the weight cut. I think it's ridiculous. Like, I think it's crazy on her part to do it. The weight cut's just a terrible idea. But maybe if she gets some traction, like by earning the belt, then she can negotiate more or something. But I feel like the UFC has been going downhill anyway. I stopped watching it. Like the talent.
I know you don't watch as much. Yeah,
I don't watch it. And then ONE FC has the whole fiasco with going bankrupt and that kind of stuff. But
and some allegedly fixed fights in Bangkok that last show that they had.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I haven't really been watching that stuff. But yeah, and I hear people talk about UFC a lot, and no one ever talks about Kayla. Like people who don't train judo talk about UFC, they never talk about Kayla. So that's probably why she never has that negotiating power, right? But if she wins the title belt, maybe she'll be able to negotiate something. But I mean, they're out to make money. They're not out to make the fight entertaining as a priority, not to make it entertaining or make it like fun for us, right? So or make it fair even. So that's why they haven't funded really the heavier. That's why they killed most of the women's divisions, right?
Well, they only got rid of women's 145 because there just wasn't enough women at 145. There's not enough top ranked fighters. When they tried to build a division, for some reason UFC just didn't bring in a lot of women. You know, it was just made for Cyborg. Like they just made a division just for Cyborg, and then when that fell through, that relationship ended. They're like, all right, let's get rid of it. Screw it.
Yeah, I feel like they have like this whole. I mean, it's a very American mindset. It's the same thing as judo, right? People only look at the short term. So the UFC is just like, well, we have this person that's popular. Let's make money out of them, basically. But they're not investing in the development of the MMA pipeline. Does that make sense? They're not getting more women training. There's no like really solid career path for people who are trying to make it. So that's why we get what we get. And the same thing for judo, right? It's like if someone else created, like if we created like a high level competitor, then USA Judo will be like, oh yeah, we'll take them too.
Yeah, we'll take them.
But they're not investing anything into like the judo, the growth of judo in general. So it's the same thing with UFC. They're just out to make money, I think. But yeah, I have zero interest in watching her fight, basically.
Really?
So, to be honest, yeah.
All right. Well, I have interest. I'm gonna watch this fight. I hope that she wins.
It's not that I don't like Kayla. It's just the matchups. I have no interest in the matchups.
I just hope that Kayla wins, can defend her title at least one time, because they're saying that Amanda Nunes might come out of retirement to fight Kayla or fight the winner of this thing.
They're teammates, so it'll be interesting. I'll watch that. I'll watch Amanda Nunes fight Kayla. I'm interested in that.
So, but yeah, I get really worried about the weight cut. And like I said, last time I heard about her being hospitalized afterwards, she was on an IV and all stuff. I was like, I hope this isn't true. I hope it's not as bad as people are trying to make it to be, but that's a lot of weight that she cuts, you know? That's not just like body, like fat or nothing. Like she's cutting muscle because she's a strong woman, you know? It's just, I don't like the weight cut she's doing. I think it's bad for her. But if you want to be a champion, you want to get that recognition, you want to be one of the best combat athletes in the world, being 2-time Olympic champion and now being hopefully a UFC champion, a PFL champion, like no one can deny her, you know? That's some judo news coming up. Some other judo news that happened this past, or is happening as we speak and a little bit after we speak, is the European Championships happening right now. So Anthony, have you had a chance to watch any of the European Championships at all?
No, I watched some highlight clips and then I was in Japan, then I was jet lagged, so I didn't really get to watch it, right?
Yeah.
But I watched some highlight clips, and then some of my friends linked me certain clips to talk about and wanted my opinion on it. So I kind of watched the clips, and I'm not impressed.
You're not impressed by their performance.
So I don't have much, and I don't like the current rules, so I don't really want to watch it.
So let's go through let's just go through what we always do. The top 3 teams, okay? So the top team.
Let me correct myself. I don't like the Yuko rules, current Yuko rules, and I don't like how the refs are enforcing the other rules. Like Shidos and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's some questions I was going to ask you your second opinion on some of these things that I was seeing. So the top team with only 7 medals, but getting 3 gold and stuff and getting the most points out of that is the International Judo Federation people, which is the Russian team, which is just the Russian team. So they did pretty well, you know?
Yeah.
Coming in second place was France with an overall 10 medals, and then Georgia with an overall 4 medals. So those are the top 3 teams. Russia, International Judo Federation, France, and Georgia. I can't say their name exactly, you know, because they're part of the International Judo Federation. They're not Russia anymore. So one thing that I noticed is that when it got to when I was watching the match with the lighter weights, and even when it came to the medal matches, a lot of the lighter weights were still going to golden score. They were still going to golden score. Like there were quick scores after they went to golden score, but a lot of them were going to golden score. Once you got to the heavier weights, they seemed to not go to golden score that much. I thought it was kind of interesting because you think the lighter weights would be like working more and getting stuff done, and the heavier weights would be taking longer and having to fight an extra few minutes afterwards.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Did you notice that at all?
I didn't notice that, but if you noticed that, that's interesting.
That's something that I just saw, and it would just be the matches that I saw. A lot of the title match, a lot of the medal matches that I noticed were like, man, a lot of these lighter weights are going to golden score. It's interesting to me. Another thing that was interesting is that, and I saw this a couple times, and then I saw another guy put up a video of it, and Dakiage, I thought was illegal. We can't do Dakiage no more.
That's not true. You just can't score off of it in many cases.
That's okay. That's the thing. Okay. You can do Okay. So you can do Dakiage, but you're not allowed to get a score off of it. You have to put like a foot in there to make it look like it's Kuochi or Ochigari.
No, that's not. No. Dakiage is allowed as a score if they don't enter Newaza. And if you remember that, that means it's complicated, but let's just say for
this
scenario's sake, let's say all 4 limbs, right? So 2 knees and 2 elbows or 2 hands, right?
Yeah.
So if you have 3 hands touching the floor, let's say 3 hands.
3 hands? Wow.
2 knees. Let's say 2
hands?
knees and 1 hand touching the floor. So 3 points of contact touching the floor. Then you're technically still in Tachiwaza. Then when they do Dakiage, then you can get a score, provided that it is not a reversal, right? So do you know what I mean? So remember, you can't counter you cannot counter using the floor so once you hit the floor, you can't use the floor to push
pick him
off
back up and slam him again.
No. Like if I attack you, and your back touches the floor, you can't use that as leverage to counter, right?
Okay.
This is really hard to demonstrate.
No, because this got me confused. Because I saw a lot of people, like I saw a few matches. I saw someone put a video of it. A lot of people getting ippons or wazaris.
Yeah.
I don't know how someone got a wazari from, but it was like getting ippons and wazaris for Dakiage. And some were like, they kind of put a foot in, so it kind of looked like Kochigari. So I was like, okay, kind of like Kochi, kind of like
basically, if their back doesn't touch the floor and they're able to do it midair, then 1, that will count, and 2, if the other person hasn't entered Newaza yet. That's the gist of it. Let's just, because I can't really give exact scenarios.
We're gonna have to make a video on this now, because even I was confused.
Yeah, so
I thought it wasn't allowed.
Link me the clips, and then maybe we'll make another video of it. Because during the Olympics, people asked me to explain why some of the scores were not scores or why they were scores, and that did really well. So we can do this, but yeah, Dakiage is not illegal. It's just really, really hard to score off if given the situations that kind of bar it from happening. So
yeah,
maybe it's not even a Dakiage what you're talking about. So I need.
It looked like I swear to God, I look like a bunch of Dakiages. Yeah. I was trying to find those videos again, see if they didn't get taken down yet by IJF. IJF's like, oh, we don't want to talk about this. Get rid of that video. Strike it. Strike that video right now. So that was really interesting because I've seen some Dakiages, and usually it's like they're technically Dakiage, but it'd be like I said, there'll be like a Kochigari in there, or like a little Osoto kind of, or like a little Kochi, something that make it look like they did something, hit the foot to go into Dakiage. But there are some things where like little guy look like they picked them up and slammed them down.
It doesn't matter what they do if the other 2 things like I said happened, and it's not a score. It doesn't matter if you put a foot there. It doesn't score if the stuff I said happened.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. Speaking of Clarice, what do you think of her match?
Well, that's the one thing I watched. And I talked to Dr. Sayonagi about this. We were talking about bringing him on for the next one, not the next episode, but one of the episodes before the World Championships, to talk about the rules. For those who don't know, he's the one who gathers all the statistics on Reddit, the Shido statistics and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so we were talking about it, and it's just it was the right call.
No, it was the right call.
It was the right call.
Yeah, 100% it was the right call. No one can, if anyone complains that it wasn't the right call, it's like, dude, you just don't know the rules then.
Yeah,
or like you're just a huge fan that just said, no, I won't see this.
It's just ridiculous because the other girl threw herself into it to get hurt. I don't know whether it's intentional or not, but she definitely threw herself basically to make that disqualification. But it just goes to show how the IJF's gotten ridiculous in some of these safety things. Like, well,
it was a weird thing because she had her hands clasped in the Newaza, and she kept it clasped in the Tachi, because they went from Newaza into Tachiwaza. They're stand up, and then they both kind of fall down. Like, to me, it could be 50-50. Clarice could have been trying to go for an Osotogari or whatever the hell it was.
Well, it was a Kosoto, I think. Yeah,
like the Kosotogari. And the other girl could have just been like, oh, I'm going to just try to throw her back using leverage or something. So it could have been either or, but yeah, her hands are clasped, but already standing up. You know that's illegal. You can't throw that way.
I don't know why her hands are clasped. If she let go, it would have been fine.
Yeah,
right. Which is funny because
one-handed. It's either one hand or the other hand would have gone. She probably would have got the ippon for it, but because she kept her hands clasped, they were like no ippon, hansokamake.
And it's ridiculous because the whole point of that kata sankaku rule is protect the neck.
Yeah,
and like the way that she did it has no danger to the neck whatsoever.
I think Clarice was more in danger, I think, from the position they were in.
I don't know about that, but anyway, it just goes to show how ridiculous it is, and they should have just made it so you can't crank the neck during a throw or something like that as a standard. But yeah, but I don't think it will happen very often because we talked about this in one of the episodes, how people have been countering the kata sankaku turnovers by standing up, because when you stand up, they can't throw you, they can't turn you over, because then it will be like a throw while you're standing with kata sankaku, which is legal. But the way that people like Primo from Israel and that Japanese girl that made highlight clips did it is that they let go of the kata sankaku and then grab your leg into a cradle. So that's how they've been countering it. So if Clarice actually did the cradle, she would have been fine too.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah.
Maybe if anyone goes to her clinic, let us ask her and see what she says.
Why didn't you do the cradle
after she throws you?
I want quad, no cradle.
Who wants to be my lovely assistant today? You that asked the question, come over here real quick.
No, it is what it is. It's the right call. But again, like I said, this is why I don't really want to watch it, because the rules are dumb. But
I don't think that was a rule dumb thing. It was just
I think the rules are dumb.
Just a loss. Just I don't know why she kept her hands clasped. I really like, you're fully standing at that point.
Well, you can't. It's like a moment in time thing.
Yeah, I know. So, I know. It's just a second.
How often do you train for that situation?
I train every class that situation.
Anyway,
I get a citrus color every class. I say, come over here. Let me get this weird position on you.
You pay that $250 and ask her then.
Yeah. Oh, I'll definitely paying that. If our podcast was more successful with commercials, maybe I would do that if I could write it off. It's a business expense, you know? All right, so that's kind of the judo news. Those are the big things that I noticed at this last tournament and stuff. Lightweights were going to golden score. I saw some dakeages and points given to them. Clarice got disqualified in the main event, and I was like, that's crazy to me. But yeah, and that there's some good throws, some interesting throws. The rules being used, for the most part, I think effectively to make. I think the rules are being. I know you don't like them. You keep on saying that. I think they're being used the best of their ability for the most part right now. I don't see people crawling out the ring like they were before.
I'll just straight up say it again. The referees are the problem, not the rules. So
we need robots. We need AI refs out there.
No, it's kind of like, how do I say it? The way that if you understand the referee structure, then it kind of explains for us. I'm not going to go deep into it, but if you understand how they pick referees at the local level and how they move up to the international level, and then how you get promoted up to like the top level, then you'll understand why the problem is a problem. And the fact that I know Dave Roman says like these are the best guys in the world. I disagree. I'm like, I think there are probably tons of people that are better qualified, but they don't want to go through that bullshit, so they don't get selected.
Oh, thank you. I
So
appreciate that, Anthony. I appreciate that. I know you're talking about me right now. I know. All right. So, Anthony, now we've gone through judo news. What's our main topic today? What do you want to talk about?
how would we change Judo Newaza training?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
So let's establish some ground rules or ground points, I guess. We are not talking about I should have took notes on how to word this. We're not talking about how to make judo closer to BJJ, because when people say judo Newaza sucks, like they mean one of two things, right? Like one of three things. One is sucks in the sense that is non-existent, right? Some people say that. And then another way, which is the most common, is people compare it to BJJ, which is what we refute all the time, because they're like, yeah, Judo Newaza sucks because when we fight in a BJJ rule set, it doesn't work. Like,
yeah.
duh. So
yeah, and if BJJ fights in a judo rule set, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so that's number 2 point, and number 3 is just Judo Newaza is still commonly underdeveloped under the IJF sport rule set, right? So I personally for this episode want to focus on how will we change judo training for two things, not for BJJ, right? So how will we train it to improve it for the sport IJF judo rule set, like the current rule set, and how will we change it for a sport martial judo aspect? So basically, how would we change it so that it would perform better in IJF rules for local tournaments, and how would we change it to perform better to be a more well-rounded judoka? Does that make sense? Because
Yes.
I don't believe people are like, just go train BJJ. I don't believe that, because there's no pin as a threat in BJJ. There's no pinning as a threat, and there's a lot of like weird open guard inverse stuff, so which I think doesn't apply to judo. So I think the sport martial judo part needs to retain the importance of pins and being on top in general, not pulling guard and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's the ground rule. So how will we change it? So let's talk about why there's a problem, right? Let's start with how judo is commonly trained in many clubs. The number one thing is knee wrestling. We see that a lot, right?
Okay.
Knee wrestling. So do you want to talk about that? What your thoughts are on knee wrestling?
Well, here's I'm going to put this just out there, and just kind of like just a blank, just a big statement. Okay, a lot of dojos train judo for sports, train judo for competition, and if I'm not going to get a win or points by going for cool arm bars or chokes or passing guard kind of things, and if my best way to win is just to throw somebody for ippon, why am I going to focus so much on Newaza? And I think that's why a lot of judo schools and players there's a little bit of a generation that lost their Newaza because of that. They train just for sport. If my big main way to win is just to throw some for ippon, if I throw and I don't get anything, I'm just going to stand back up and fight again. So that's why you get dojos that are just throwers only, or throwers that do some pins, but don't focus on arm bars, chokes, or anything. So I think that's one of the big things with judo, that you get some of these sport judos that are just 100% sport judo that only focus on throwing. Now, when it comes to knee wrestling, I think some of the problem is that there's not connectivity of like, well, how do I get from tachiwaza to Newaza? And that's something that I always talk about. So in my class, you got to connect these two things together. Is that you got to remember, throw into Newaza, always throw into Newaza, throw into pin, throw into something, okay? So when people start off in knee wrestling, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know, like they don't have the connectivity in their head of like, oh, well, I can do koshiguruma or ogoshi or go down into a scissor sweep. They just think I'm just in a wrestle and try to muscle my way someone back onto their back or onto their side or something.
I think the knee wrestling is a waste of time, basically, is what we're both saying, right?
It's just that it's not a waste of time if you're not taught how to connect it, I think.
I think it's a complete waste of time. I think it's a complete waste of time, because even if you connect it, you might as well just do stand up throw into Newaza, right? Because what you end up seeing happening a lot in knee wrestling is, one, people start doing BJJ stuff, right? If they know what they're doing. Two, if they don't know what they're doing, like you said, they're just pushing and pulling and turning. And you might start seeing some weird Tayatoshi Koshiguruma on the knee kind of thing happen. And then that's not Newaza, right? So
it's going into Newaza. Because you get these people
might as
that
well just do stand up.
We tell them, like, okay, guys, let's just do some Newaza training. And then they start knee wrestling. They have no idea what to do from there. And that's when you just get them shaking each other to see who would go to their back first.
Yeah, basically knee wrestling never happens in IJF Judo. You never ever see it. I've never seen it in competition. I've maybe seen it once in a novice competition, but otherwise, or some Newaza only competition. I've seen some local Newaza only competitions where people knee wrestle because they start from the knees. But it never happens, right? Another common thing that's currently done is they attack the turtle or attack the stomach down flat with zero resistance, like drills, right? Either zero resistance or full resistance. So full resistance will be like tight turtle, everything's closed up.
Yeah.
And again, I think those are unrealistic, because the zero resistant turtles only happen for a split second, and full resistance, most people will not go for a turnover, right? If it's like they're already closed up really tight, most people will not go for it. So that's another way it's currently taught. Another way it's currently taught is commonly is just drilling positions from finishing positions, like starting from like full kesakatame locked on, for example, and then like try and escape. So I'm not saying that's useless. Unlike knee wrestling, I think there is a time and place for that. We'll talk about that, because I think there is uses from it. But some people will just like start from that pinning position and not do any of the transitions that you talked about that was important. So starting from pin positions that you fully locked onto and escape is not an effective way to train Newaza if your whole curriculum is surrounded by it. And the other thing we talked about, BJJ like Newaza Randori, right? So it's like, all right, Newaza Randori, fight, basically just fight on the ground, figure it out, try to pin or submit the other guy. Then you start seeing people pulling guard, going in their back. They start doing butterfly guard, half open guard. All these stuff that never ever happens in a sport IJF Judo rule set, right? And then other thing is they train techniques that don't happen in Judo rule set, or if they do happen, they don't train it in a context to the sport Judo rule set. So one example would be triangle from guard, right? Nobody tries to lift people up, right? Because once you lift them up off the ground, they reset.
Yeah.
Or arm lock from guard. Like when they train that, they train them to lift them. They don't train to lift up and reset, to stay on the floor. And also the bottom person who's doing the arm lock and doing the triangle, they don't train the submission in a way to prevent the other guy from lifting you up, like hooking the leg and all that stuff. That's not commonly taught. So that's the way I think is currently taught in most places, and why I think it's let's talk about why it's well, we're kind of already did that, huh? But I currently think those are ineffective ways of teaching Newaza, and it's and that results in why we think Judo Newaza is in the state that it currently is. So Judo Newaza sucks, but not because of what people say, which is that it's not BJJ, right? I think it sucks because it doesn't follow a realistic IJF rule set scenarios.
I think so many people just think of Newaza just as BJJ stuff, that they don't understand like Judo Newaza, like where it works and where it doesn't work at, you know? Why am I going to, and I get it. So it's like, why am I going to go for an arm bar or a sankaku, or why am I going to go for a choke of any kind when I just pin the person? And it makes total sense. It's much easier to pin somebody, hold them down in a tight position, than to try to go for an armbar where they
Yeah.
could maybe stand up or squirm their way out or try to end up in sankaku where again if they know they can lift like and that's one thing that's something that people like I know black and brown belts so when I'll talk about that in my class like okay when someone gets because I work that position sometimes okay someone gets you in an armbar position you're gonna grab their gi here and pick them up you're not gonna slam them but you're gonna pick them up off the mat and that's gonna be mate and I got people like I said black and brown belts sometimes they're like what we can do that. It's like, yeah, that's a total easy way to get out of an armbar or sankaku if someone gets you.
Yeah, and it's funny because BJJ people tend to spout this, which is position before submission, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's true in a BJJ context, but then they don't apply it to a judo context of position before submission, right? So why would I give up my position for a maybe chance at a submission, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So because the position I want is a pin, not a position to transition into a submission, which is what BJJ is. That's where the difference is.
There's also positions in BJJ that are super common there that like I'll go over certain positions because they're common grappling positions in my class but I'll tell the class this is not common in judo. If this happens in judo and you lock them down or you hold them there, the ref will stand you up like in what I call dojime and stuff, full guard position. That doesn't happen that often in judo. It happens in open grappling, happens in BJJ a lot, but in judo, if someone has you in dojime or a guard position, they lock you down, they hold you, they grab your body, grab your belt and hold you there. After a few seconds, the ref's gonna say mate and stand you back up. You know? Another thing is that I'll see some of the BJJ guys that train with us is that they'll person be on the ground, they'll try to get past the legs and they'll stand up and try to like do one of these leg pass things. As I say, that's great for open grappling, but in judo, as soon as you stand up, the ref's gonna yell mate because it looks like you disengage.
That's not completely true. It's only true if you disconnect. So you could stand up and pass. It's just why would you do that? Because someone can sweep you, and you lost again. You lost the position, right?
And again, it's like I said, it's up to the ref to think like, oh, he's disengaged. He's not disengaged.
Yeah, that's true because local refs don't understand that rule.
Yeah.
So let's not stick to the BJJ thing because we want to talk about how we're gonna improve like Newaza judo training, right?
So
let's start it off with like sport IJF judo because we're gonna talk about sport and then we'll talk about martial judo. Okay, so let's talk about sport IJF judo. How would you improve it? Because right now, like we said, stuff like knee wrestling, attacking a full resistance closed up turtle or attacking zero resistance turtle, those things don't happen.
For the sport judo, to me, it's all about training positions, real positions that are happening in tournaments, you know? And like one of the things that I do, like that I do all the time in my class is that I give them time periods, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds to work to see what they can do. And when I see people kind of struggling or having hard times, then I'll go over, I usually have a plan already, but I'm going to go over something. You're like, here, this is what you guys can do from this position, you know? This is something you can do to work from there. But yeah, like I do have them do, I usually don't do like zero resistance. I have them do like hard resistance because that's where I see people have problems with at tournaments when people lock down and I'll see them like just fighting. Where yeah, you have to make that decision in a tournament. Do I want to continue fighting or I just want to stand up and try to fight again with the person?
See, I would not do, especially with beginners, I would not start with full resistance because with full resistance, like I said, vast majority of people do not choose to attack the full resistance. They'll just stand up and wait for a reset. So why waste time training that scenario, right? And we already are limited. We talked about this with Chris Round, right? Like we're already limited in time and training for the ground because it's so unlikely to win via the ground because all the rules are. I'll take that back because the number one scoring technique is the pin, right? But it's so the rules are stacked against Newaza basically. That's why we're already limiting the amount of time we train in Newaza. So why would you train these scenarios that don't happen? So I think the number one thing we need to do is train people how to defend or escape certain pins first. Because back to what we said about attacking, starting from pinning position already, like have someone locked up into a Kesukatame position and then train escapes, right? And defense. People are like teaching these escapes like, oh, like to escape Kesukatame, all you have to do is clasp your hands together around the waist, then you bridge one way, and then you bridge them over your head. So they teach that. There's a very common way, right?
Mhm.
But the top person does not resist ever. They just kind of hold on to that position.
Mhm.
But if you were to say do what you do in your class, which is like, okay, you have 20 seconds to escape, go. Now, like most likely most people aren't going to escape. If they escape, it means they didn't do the pin right,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because we know for a fact at watching high level judo that if someone locks in everything that they need for the pin and they are same weight class as you, you are not getting out. Right? So if you start from that position and someone got out of your pin or bridged you or escaped you, it's not because your escape was good. It's because the other guy fucked up on the pin.
Oh, come on, Anthony. You can't be so mean to him. But it's
No,
when I do that kind of
I'm
stuff,
telling you what people need to
yeah,
understand. People need to
but
understand this because then
it's
now
not
they're like,
just
oh,
I know the focus is on the bottom person trying to escape, but it's also the top person figuring out like, okay, well, they bridged out or they did this to escape. I need to work on that. I need to hold them down better next time with this position,
yeah,
using my legs or arms or hands.
This is my problem because the coaches don't teach it that way. They're like, oh, they escaped, so I taught the escape right,
Mhm.
and then the student who's pinning will think, oh yeah, they did the escape right. That's why I didn't pin them. That's why they were able to escape. When it's like, no, they escaped because you fucked up on the pin. So that's needs to be changed, right? People, the coaches need to change this mindset that if I teach to escape, it's and they don't if they don't escape, it's the student's fault. That's not always the case. It's probably because the other guy, again, assuming the same skill level and weight class, it's probably the other guy did the pin more correctly, right? So the escape should be seen as a way of exploiting the top person's mistakes, whether it's in the static pin itself or mid transition, like when we scoot around, circle, shrimp, all that stuff, and gaps open up. So that's how I think the start from pinning position kind of teaching needs to change in terms of the mindset. Because otherwise, you're giving this person false. We see this all the time with kids, right? They're like, oh, they can do it in class, and then in tournaments, like, why isn't it working? Like, so, and they also always wait until the whole pin is set in before they try to escape, and they don't try to escape before that. So that's the other part that's missing. Yeah, so that leads up to the next thing, right? Transitions. Like you always talk about transitions. So if everyone does all the pins and escapes and all that stuff correctly, then all the opportunities will open up during transitions, whether it's for leading to attack or defense. It's the transition from stand up to bottom, or the transitions from like turtle into pin or turtle into half guard or whatever. Those are where the opportunities are happening. And right now, most dojos do not train transitions. They train static situations like pass the half guard. And then once they pass the half guard, you give up and you just let the pin happen and you reset, right? So right now those things don't happen, so we have to train the transitions more. Do you want to talk about how you teach transitions in your class?
Well, to me, I always tell them when I teach them, I always have, like I said, I always connect stuff together. It's like always like if you're on, I always say this thing when I have them fight, it's 50-50. Both of you guys are fighting right now. And I give them the choice, like it's your choice to hold them there if you want to choose to stay there, or sweep them, pass them. If they get past you, ebby out, try to reverse the submission and stuff. But I always give them like things to work on to the point, you know? And that's one thing is I always have them, like I said, my plan is always I let them work on their own, see what they know. And I already have a plan in my head where I'm gonna teach like 2 or 3 different submissions or 2 or 3 transitions from there. And then it's like, okay, so then we work on that, see what they know. Then, okay, how about you guys try this submission from here? Or you guys can try this position from here. This is why we do this. Like yesterday, I was doing a lot of what I call rolling akudajimas and stuff, or clock chokes or rolling akudajimas. It's like, well, here's another one right here. Okay, you're gonna get the akudajima here, get the arm out, and go for the arm bar. Just another position from here if someone's in turtle position. So to me, it's just I always give them options. I see what they do, and then I have them work on it again. Because like they do it themselves. I teach them something, and then I have them do it again and see who tries it out. You know, and it's also like once you learn it, you actually know what to see and what someone's going to do. So it's not as easy as like, oh, I learned this, now I can do it to somebody, they're not going to resist. No, it's like you have to work for it still. but it's always connecting things together, always going into the pin, going into the armbar, going into the choke.
Yeah, so I think that's great. That's already much better than what I see in most other clubs, and I know this because I watch your class, right? But what I do is in my class is I try to make it as representative to the full thing as possible. So maybe we will drill like Ryoku turnovers, right, for warm-ups, right? We'll drill that for warm-ups, and then I would start adding stand-up transition into the ground. So one thing we do is I tell someone to drop in I tell one person to attack, the other to defend, and the defending person would do a drop seoinage kind of drop, but not actually a drop seoinage, just drop into a turtle basically, and in a random direction, right? Because again, what we have is people drilling these turnovers and stuff like that, but then they can only enter from one direction, like whether it's front or the left or the right. Or this is what infuriates me the most when we do. Some people do teach the what they call bow and arrow turnover.
Yeah, the rolling
They'll make
kodajime.
them
Well, the
do
way I
like
call rolling kodajime.
they'll make them do left and right side, right? But I'm
Most people
like,
don't throw left-sided.
exactly. So if you're always getting a right lapel collar,
Yeah.
then and someone let's assume is right versus right, and they do a right drop seoinage, then that's the only time that would probably happen, right? If you're fighting righty versus lefty, then that drop is not going to happen. That position's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So why would you make
It's
someone train both sides?
it's one of the things where you got to be ambidextrous. You never know who you're going to face and stuff. And like, there's people that get confused still on that, like the bow and arrow choke, rolling kodajime. Like there was a I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a black belt the other day in our class that was trying to do it, like just in Newaza stuff, just working your own things, and he's trying to do it. And I was like, I know what he's trying to do, but he's messing up already. Like he hit the whole thing where it's a simple mistake. Some people, for some reason, think that, like, say if someone goes for, because there's the whole thing. Someone that drops seoinage, your hands right there across the throat, you block it, you step to the side, you roll into it.
Yeah.
But what if someone does a makikomi throw to you?
Yeah.
Okay. You block it, you get to step to the side and try to roll for it. The arm's inside now. Oh shoot.
Yeah.
What do I have to change this now? But he was starting off from, I'm gonna get my arm inside here and try to roll them over. It's like, you can roll them over, but you're not gonna get a choke from there. You have to attach something else to it. Like go into an arm bar or readjust your hands. So there's like I said, like it's not just beginners that get confused with this stuff. I got black belts that get confused at this.
I'm talking about coaches that get confused. I'm not talking about beginners. I'm talking about coaches that make people drill left and right and not understanding how the other side never happens. So, which also comes into play. If you're a lefty and 90% of the people you fight are righties, then maybe you should train a scenario where 90% of the time it happens, right? So maybe the bow and arrow is not one of those scenarios that happen. Anyway, so I have people drop in a random direction, right? Doesn't have to be cardinal. It could be like 45, 50, 60, 70 degrees. And the other person has to turn them over before the other guy tightens up. And once you tighten up, you stand up and you reset. And would do that over and over and over again. And that's like at the lowest end of the spectrum, right? So beginners do this. And then for more intermediate beginners, to call them in my class, like people who've been there for like 6 months or so, 3 to 6 months, then I will start incorporating change of direction in an actual throw. So they're not allowed to do drop seoinage in my class, but I will like tell them to do like koshi makikomi, or maybe like try like drop taiotoshi or something like that. And then once they drop, then the other person has to attack the turtle, right? But they don't know which direction they're going to throw, because there's a backward throw and there's a forward throw. So they don't know which direction. They might end up in turtle, or they might end up in a koshi makikomi guard position, right? So now they have to pass the top person has to pass the half guard, and the bottom person has to make sure they turtle or the guard doesn't pass. And then from there, you basically tell them the goal is to just stay on top and not get pinned and turn the other person over. So that's how you do a realistic transition, right? And then that's where you add also time limits. Like if nothing happens in like 10 seconds, you stand up and reset. So that's like a full on representative way of training. But that's really hard to do because there are takedowns involved. That means you need a lot more space between groups for safety. So when we don't have this, I think what we should do more of is like Newaza Randori, but we do this in Philippe's class, right? One person starts in turtle, the other person attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, or one person starts in flat and the other person attacks, and then with slow, gradual increase in resistance. So maybe like count to 3 before you tighten up your turtle or something like that. And this is another thing, right? You'll see someone like pinning someone for like 20 seconds and not moving,
Yeah.
and you're like, you're not. Are you learning anything right now?
Yeah.
Like, so
Well, sometimes you get lazy people sometimes, and you gotta tell them like don't. I literally have to say sometimes like don't be lazy. If you're in a pin, try to fight. If you hold them in a pin for a
Yeah.
while, let them back up, okay, and restart.
or I
You will
think
get people that are like, oh, I got the pin, and they'll hold them there till like I say Monte a minute
so
later.
I think restarts is an option, but I would prefer transition.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we were talking about how there's a lack of transitions, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I messed up my pin, right?
Mhm.
Let's assume there's a skill gap between the pinning player and the bottom player. Then I'm gonna, once I pin you for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, I'm going to transition to assume I messed up my pin and you escaped, and now that gives the bottom person a chance to experience the transition and the scramble position, and
Mhm.
maybe they'll scramble into a different position. Now the top person's learning something and the bottom person is learning something.
Mhm.
So these are things that aren't explicitly told to people, that hey, if you pin the other guy for 10 seconds, maybe you should transition to a different position.
Mhm.
But other than that, other things I don't like about Newaza Randori that's commonly done right now are, one, back takes. Like
Mhm.
people going for back takes. I think going for back takes is a mistake in most cases. When I say back takes, I mean like getting a hook and rolling someone over onto your back. I'm not talking about taking someone's back and then rear naked choking them from
Yeah.
top. Does that make sense?
No, but no,
So,
because in
yeah.
judo, putting the hooks in and then rolling to your back to get that position where you're on your back and they're on you and stuff. That's a very uncommon position in judo.
It's risky, and it's
Yeah.
waste of energy.
Yeah, it doesn't happen in judo because it's much easier for me to maybe put the hooks in, spread you out, and just rear naked choke you
And
from that position.
well, it's also because the rear naked choke's hard to do once you do that hook thing, because people, now the refs can see exactly what's happening. So
Yeah.
I'm going to tuck my chin, and then the moment you do a rear naked choke or whatever, then it's over the lapel. Now you just mate, right?
Yeah.
You reset. So I that's why I think those kind of back takes need to stop happening, and they happen a lot in Newaza Randori, because people can't do a proper turnover, so they do this back take kind of turnover because it's easier to do.
Mhm.
So that's one, and then two, I think people need to stop playing. They need to stop passing close guard. That's another thing that doesn't happen, right?
Mhm.
So I don't think we should drill passing close guard, because it's, again, risky unless the other person's close guard's not fully closed, right?
Yeah.
um, and two, we should practice stalling in close guard more.
Nah, you got to keep stalling. Because to me, like this was where it gets to that point where
You mean, wait, you said we need to stalling more, or are you saying we need to drill passing more?
no. So you're saying that we should stop drilling stalling
Passing.
in close guard.
No, opposite.
Opposite. Okay.
I'm saying we need to drill stalling in close guard more,
It's
and
one
we
of those
need to
hard things
stop
because
drilling passing close guard.
I get what you mean. I absolutely get what you understand. I understand what you mean, Anthony. But it's one of those things where we have to teach it to be a well-rounded grappler.
You forgot we're talking about sport.
I know. But
Competition class. Competition class.
I know. But then we're gonna fall into that fray of that judo sucks and judo's Newaza. I understand, like if you're teaching, like if we're in like a competition only class, totally get it, 100%. Yeah, we work on what's gonna work. Like I always say, we work on what we're gonna do. Like when I have my beginners fight, my intermediates fight each other, like when I have them do Newaza Rondo, I'm like, guys, work on stuff you're gonna do in competition. Work on pins and chokes. Don't try to do some fancy arm bar, some fancy split-legged turnover. Take the back thing. If it goes into a choke, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell my guys in my intermediate class, work on things you're gonna do in competition. So I totally get that. You know how I teach and stuff. Okay, you know how I am.
You can, but I agree with you, but that will be for the sport.
I know.
Section,
I know.
right?
This is where it gets hard for us. It gets hard for me at least.
Yeah, we need to stop drilling passing close guard, especially if it's the legs closed, and we need to start practicing more scenarios where we stall, right?
Yeah, but that's realistic. Like, how many tournaments do you go to where people just turtle up or do it? Like, I tell people, like, if they're tired, get them in dojime, grab that back belt right there and just lock them down. After
Yeah.
a few seconds, the ref's going to stand you back up, and it's 50-50 again standing.
Yeah, the next section that I'm going to talk. This next thing I'm going to talk about is something that I asked Chris Round about during our interview with him, and I'm still experimenting with it because I'm not sure. But I think the judo half guard is really weak right now because it literally, we see it at top level. Like, once someone has a half guard, unless they have a big thighs or something like that, it's basically they're going to pass. It's a matter of time before they pass, and so we need to practice more of a defensive, like, open half kind of, like a BJJ. This is one of the scenarios where I think like a BJJ style of half guard would be more appropriate for people to train. That way you can bail out and force a scramble and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm currently experimenting in. I think that's more useful. But we also need to drill more half guard passing because of how it's so easy to pass a half guard right now. And is also taught incorrectly, I think, for the most part. Let's see. Yeah, so I think that's the most of what I have. But basically, just look at what happens in competition and just practice it and recreate those scenarios in small snippets. That's like basically what I'm saying. Yeah.
Because I always say, you train judo. It just depends on the kind of judo you want, you know. And I split my class sometimes. I'll tell people, like, well, this is what you do if you open grappling, do this, okay? But if we're training for judo, which I want you guys to do 100% here, most of the time here, is train what you're going to do in competition, all right?
Yeah.
I know not everyone here is going to compete, but I don't want you guys to get lazy. Like, I don't want certain people that train other martial arts, they'll come in and do all these crazy things. Like, that's great. That's fantastic. I love what you're doing here. But if you ever compete in a tournament, that's become second nature to you, and you're going to get hansokumaked.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, you might get just hansokumaked for that match, but you might get hansokumaked from the tournament, okay? Because a lot of refs don't know the difference between an armbar and an armbar sweep, all right? That's just a simple one like that, okay? I know you're going for an armbar sweep, but the ref doesn't.
Yeah. So last thing I want to say before we can move on to the next section, is that people, like, if there's one thing you want to take away from this, was what we said, like, train realistic snippets of the real thing. And also, I think you need to teach beginners how to defend certain pins and guards and all that stuff first before you teach them how to effectively pin or attack someone. Because assuming, like, my class is a group full of beginners and there's no black belts and stuff to train with, you can't effectively train whether attack works or not unless the other person knows how to defend. If the other person's completely clueless on how to defend it, then you're giving yourself a false sense of security that your pin or your armbar or whatever works because it worked on this person that doesn't know how to defend. So you really need to teach people how to defend stuff before you teach them how to train them into how to attack, basically. So that's my view on it. But that's how I would structure a competition Newaza training, I guess. It's going to be very boring, though. So, because you're just repeatedly drilling these, like, really small scenarios that happen.
I don't think it'd be boring. I just think, like, the way I teach it, it's got to be intense. You know, it can't be just long strains of doing the same thing. You got to make it, like, time oriented. Like, make them feel like this is what 10 seconds feels like. This is what 30 seconds feels like, okay? And in a match, you're not going to get 30 seconds. So you better work faster than that. You know, so I think
I really... Go ahead.
For me, I think that helps out. Like, with me, like I said, I'm big on time things. So I think it gives people a more reality of, like, oh my God, is that what a 20-second pin feels like? Oh my God, that's what 30 seconds is. And I'm not even gonna get that much time to try to do something. So you got to work fast, action-based sport.
I really want to know how the Japanese women train. And also, you know, there's certain Newaza specialists, right? Like, what's the Swedish guy called? Forgot. Brain fart.
No, because I can't remember his name either.
I can't remember his name. I feel like it's so. I want to say Tommy Macias, but it's not him.
Felipe's yelling at us right now on the podcast.
Tommy Macias says good Newaza too, but I want to say Babelfoth, but Babelfoth is just good defensive Newaza to supplement her stand-up game. But the Japanese woman, like, and there's a couple of Japanese men like Aoki Dai, like, they are like the epitome of what I think a good sport IJF judo style is like. Even though some people link these clips on the BJJ subreddit and people make fun of it, they're saying, "Oh, this is why Judo Newaza is trash." I'm like, you go try and do judo BJJ stuff in that rule set. This is what it would look like basically if it's good. But I want to know how they train and develop that. I definitely don't think it happened from the structure that we talked about that people are currently using, like knee wrestling and all that kind of crap. It's definitely something that they're doing that's able to reproduce this effect, like especially a Japanese woman. So I'm really curious. I know there's a lot of drilling involved, particularly with the Japanese, but there has to be something that's making it happen, because otherwise, even with some of the Americans that trained under like Jimmy Pedro and all that kind of stuff, where they have a strong ground game, it's not to the level where people will like crawl out of arena and eat a Shido to avoid doing Newaza with the Japanese, right? So that's something I'm really curious about. Okay, so sport martial judo, not sport. Let's just say martial judo, like the full. You don't care about competition. You're just a recreational judoka that wants to be well-rounded
judo grappler, or just a full well-rounded grappler in judo.
Yeah. So I want to start off by saying I refuse to call whatever the USJA is doing Kosen Judo, because
man, you just shots fired, man. You just
yeah. So, but I'm gonna say like I think that closest thing to it is Kosen Judo, like actual Kosen Judo, not the USJA one. So I think that's the closest thing to what we have to martial judo right now. The only thing I don't like is how it emphasizes too much on the Newaza with the way that they allow guard pull and the way that they make it so you need 2 ippon throws to win, basically. You can't throw someone for a single ippon and win. So those are the 2 things I don't like. And
ippon and a half.
Ippon and a half. So but I think in order to do that, to do a sport, the martial judo, right? The full well-rounded thing, you need to do a lot of what Kosen Judo is doing, but also not take away from the importance of stand-up and ippons and throws. So I don't know what the solution is, because it's still a competition rule set, right? So but we'll just focus on in terms of the training. So I think basically the Kosen Judo training is basically close to what BJJ does, just with pins, right?
It's very similar to what BJJ would do, except for pins. And so when it comes to like more a martial judo, you can start Kosen Judo or whatever it be. It's just working different positions that aren't used so much. You know, you're giving more time on the ground, which is what people always complain. They like, oh, well, if I had more time, I could work for this arm bar or work for this choke or work for this pin or something. So I get that. And that's one thing that I teach in my class. Like I tell people, like, you can do this in no-gi or open grappling or BJJ. You can do this totally, you can do that totally, but you can't do this in judo. But because I want you guys to be well-rounded grapplers, that's why I show you guys these things, you know? Like this is an old judo technique that's just not allowed to be done anymore, but this is great for other martial arts.
Yeah, I think what we said before in a previous part about how Newaza Randori shouldn't be the way that it is right now. Yeah, I think that's basically how it should be for this part, right? So if you want well-rounded Newaza judo, then do all the back take stuff. Allow the lapel over the chin so the back take stuff can continue, and you can tap to like chin crank, chin cranks and stuff. I think I should allow neck cranks, not BJJ neck cranks, like but you know, like allow stuff like pulling the head down to finish the triangle, that kind of stuff, but not
full on cross faces.
Yeah, not full on cross faces, not full on can openers and not that kind of stuff. Not stuff like that actually messes up your neck, but stuff that allows you to manipulate the neck a little bit to finish the submission.
Yeah,
like anaconda choke, right? That would be it. The way that people do it would consider a neck crank. Guillotines, right?
Full on guillotines.
Yeah. So stuff like that's allowed, but not like something like katakatame where you drive the bone into the neck. Like there's no way to enforce that, but I think as a training for training, again, this isn't a sport competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should probably tell your partner, don't do that, right? So
do it light.
do it. Why you gotta say it with that accent?
I don't
too?
know. I gotta just say it that way. Because my boy, I would say my boy when he says it that way.
In terms of leg locks, I don't think I would allow most leg locks, but I think knee bars should be okay. I think knee bars
to
are
me, it's
basically arm blocks to the leg.
Well, it gets like because I love heel hooks, I love leg locks, I love knee bars and
Yeah,
stuff.
but that's not judo.
I know that's not. Well,
I also think they should allow bicep slicers and all
bicep
that kind of stuff.
slicers, calf. Well, if you're gonna do bicep slicers, you want to do calf slicers then also.
Because it's a leg lock, right? Yeah, because what else would you do that puts? I don't know how I feel about calf slicers. I don't care. So either way is fine. But yeah, I don't. What about wrist locks? What do you think about that?
Dirty motherfuckers. Actually, I rarely get caught by wrist locks. I sometimes do when I go to catch sometimes, but they're such a rare move that it doesn't bother me. But some people like swear by them. Some people don't like them because it's like, oh, it's too easy to get. You know,
I'm okay with wrist locks from in general, but I hate it when people exploit it and do weird like. Obviously, you can't do this from standing in practice, right? But like, you know how people would like tangle in a gi, they would like spin like crazy to tangle up the gi.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen those things. Yeah.
So I hate it when people do stuff like that, and that's considered okay. Like, that's not very martial at all to me. But yeah, but yeah, for the most part, I think that's just how we should train. Like, basically, like Kosen Judo, but with pins, or like BJJ, but with pins, just without the guard pulling stuff, without stuff that favors bottom position, because there's a lot of stuff that BJJ does that favors being at the bottom. Like, you want to be at the bottom and apply something, like all the weird X guard, open X, single leg, like all that stuff. I don't think should be practiced. I think everything should be like, how do I get on top? How do I get on top? Not how do I stay in the bottom? And how do I stay in the bottom and what do you call it? Prioritize submitting techniques from the bottom. Like I personally am not a fan of that, because again, if you're training from self-defense this is why you don't see some of those things in MMA, right? Because you can get punched or kicked.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like there's another thing like from catch. That's why I like going to catch so much stuff, because it's almost just full open grappling except for rear naked chokes and stuff. Rear naked chokes for the most part. It's like when I was training with some BJJ guys, like after I throw them, they try to put me in guard or try to kick me off with their feet. Like I just grab their foot, get them in a heel hook or a toe hold immediately, and there's like there was one time I pretty much turned the guy into a half Boston crab, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
But it was just really funny because he tried to kick me off. I grabbed his foot for a toe hold. He turned over, just wrapped his foot around it, and I was like just leaning back on it. And you're like, oh man, I didn't expecting that. I was like, yeah, because this is different rule sets, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Like, you want to make sure your grapplers, your judo guys, like, you sometimes got to add some non-judo things there to make them well-rounded. Like, that's why I was in my class, I always talk about, like, hey, guys, this is something that you can do in open grappling, okay? This is something you may take to your BJJ class with your catch wrestling or submission grappling, sambo. Like, try this out, because this is something you can't do in judo, but it's a great thing that connects with your judo. I don't know what it was. It was like, I think it was like a month or two ago that just blew some guys' minds. It was like, what? Oh my God, I'm gonna take that to BJJ and use it. Like, go try it, use it, man.
We teach stuff sometimes where BJJ people tend to say it's useless, but then some of my students take it to BJJ and they're like, yeah, I did it on a brown belt and it worked or something. So it's not like rocket science, but
that's just my thing about when people get so focused on just teaching sport judo for the sport aspect. And it's kind of what ruined Taekwondo, made Taekwondo and the big dojos, that they only want to fight Olympic style Taekwondo because that's the point system. That's going to get you the Olympic medal, get you so far, that you lost the actual combat ability of Taekwondo. And there's still some legit Taekwondo places out there. It's just most people just know, oh, it's fucking patty cake with your feet, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how in judo sometimes it's just, oh, it's all tachiwaza. We'll still get people that come to judo and be like, yeah, I heard you guys are similar to BJJ, but cheaper. Oh my God, you guys do BJJ here? It's like, no, we're doing Newaza right now. What's that? That's the second half of judo. We do tachiwaza, Newaza, groundwork, pin, blah, 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 yakety schmackety.
Yeah. So if we were to have like a sport, a competition rule set for martial judo, what would you want?
Everything goes.
Everything.
guns, knives,
would it be
stabs.
would it be like Kosen Judo, or would it be like
I would do more like I would do definitely it would be a more Kosen Judo style. It almost I'll try to figure out like what the real Japanese style Kosen Judo is.
it's
None
so
of this.
if it's not a team tournament style, then it's not
Yeah.
Kosen Judo.
I know,
Yeah, so
I know. Kosen Judo is supposed to be based off team stuff. I get it, but if you're doing a Kosen Judo tournament, none of this. Oh, it has to be two bones. It's like no, you
Yeah.
get as long as you're working on the ground, you can do things. You know, but as long as a person stalls and stops,
yeah, if there's stops and no one's doing anything, like you're stalling
Yeah.
close guard, then you
Yeah.
reset. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I love about judo that was similar to wrestling growing up. It's total action. The entire time you're working, you're doing stuff. There's no downtime of hanging out, waiting, stalling. You're waiting there for like 30 seconds till something happens. If nothing's happening, you get stood back up and you start over again. So
Yeah.
I like if you're working in Costa, and that's the thing that the IGF is trying to fix. Like there are some videos about one of the heavyweight matches, I think it was, where a guy was like, "Oh shit," he was up. I can't remember what he was up. I think he was up by Wazadi or something, and he was just like stalling Newaza, like looking like he was trying to go for a choke of some sort, so that he can get more time, eat more time to get to win his match.
I personally wouldn't be for this, but what about a point system for similar wrestling for positions? You wouldn't do that.
I don't like that. I don't
like that either.
I don't like people trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
we have a point system. Just follow the IGF point system. Just give them more time on the ground. And if you want to add submissions, go ahead. Add submissions. Add a leg locks, or say leg locks are legal, or calf slicers and bicep slicers are legal or something. Go ahead. But we have a very good point. I know you're not happy with the Yuko rule. I know you're not.
I'm not. I like Yuko. I don't like the Yuko how they define it. I don't like how they define it.
But we have a very good point system already. Stop trying to reinvent the wheel.
You know? What about because right now the Kosen, like I said, Kosen is defined by the rules, the high school university rule set, which is that it's a team tournament. So let's assume this is like an individual, not a team tournament, right? Because right now in the team tournament, one of the strategies is to knock out an opposing player by stalling, right?
Yeah.
But within an individual, how would you have golden score? Would you have Hante, which is decision by refs, or what would you do?
I hate Hante.
You hate it?
I've always hated Hante. I hated Hante in karate. I hated Hante back in. I've always hated Hante.
Again, right? I don't think Hante is the problem. I think the referee is the problem.
Yeah.
Usually the ref's the problem.
I hate Hante. I hate those goddamn flags.
But if you allow more time on Newaza and stalling and all this kind of stuff, then like you have to have Hante.
No, because if you if you have the current rules that we have right now, okay.
You're talking about Kosen.
Kosen, yeah. So we're doing Kosen Judo with the rules that we have right now at the IGF, the Ippons, Wazadis, Yukos, and all that, okay? If you go past golden score, if you go into golden score, okay, then you just go into golden score. Someone's going to score a Yuko. All right?
I disagree.
I think someone's going to score a Yuko in our normal match time, and in the golden score, someone's scoring a Yuko at least. With the rule set of what a Yuko is right now, landing on someone's side or holding someone down for 10 seconds. I mean, holding someone down for 5 seconds. Okay. Someone's scoring a Yuko.
I watched some Kosen matches. Pins are hard to get.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think you're going to see like a 20-minute match.
Then great. Let's have a 20-minute match.
That's not viable for like a local tournament structure, because no one's going to want to be there for like 20 hours. I like the idea of what you. I like the idea of what you said, but in reality, I don't think it's going to work because of what I said. It's going to take too long.
I don't know. Let's run in our class one day. Let's do it. Let's run an experiment.
I would keep Hante, but I would base this decision off of who was attacking more and who was on top more. So on top is defined by if you turtle and I'm on top of you, I'm on top.
Yeah.
So. And then if I'm attacking a turtle, I'm attacking your defending. So I think that's a really straightforward way. And you're going to have to be absolutely paying the refs off for someone to like say, oh, that guy was attacking more when he was turtling most of the time.
He was totally working from the bottom right there. He hold him in dojime the entire time. That's not working.
So that's how I would do it. And Anyway, this should lead into this episode should feed into that Tatami Talk rule set we talked about.
Yeah,
so.
our rules. We're gonna get the Tatami Talk Federation, the Tatami Talk annual. What is it? Would be invitational tournament.
Invitational.
It was funny. I gotta talk
Only
about
invite
somebody with
people we can
invitational.
beat.
Well, because like it's funny, like the word invitation. I've always thought it was funny. It says invitation, but it's like open to anybody to come.
Well, I think they invite certain people, right? That's certain people that will draw crowds.
Mm.
But anyway, that's all I have. So
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like
yeah.
I just always think that don't limit yourself to just competition judo. You gotta somebody put some other stuff in there or bring in some old school stuff if you
the
know
whole
it,
point.
you know?
The whole point of this episode was that competition judo is not Newaza has a lot of room for improvement, and we can see this based off of the gap between the Japanese women's team and the rest of them. Right.
Well, you know what we're gonna call now? We're gonna be called under favoritism for the Japanese team. Oh, Juan Anthony only loves the Japanese team. Because
it's not
loves the women.
Because it's not like the Japanese woman team. Because when we talked about with Chris Round, right? He said like, "Oh, you gotta if you do get good in one, you gotta sacrifice the other." Right. Mm-hmm. But it's not like the Japanese women's team sucks at stand up.
Yeah.
Right.
They're very well rounded. They are super well rounded.
Yeah. So how are they training in a way that they're both good at stand up, where people are afraid of them, and they're afraid of them on the ground too, more so because everyone else's ground game is so weak.
Next trip to Japan, we get some wigs. We're gonna sneak in. God, I'm gonna have to shave that day.
We'll send Trammy in.
We'll send Trammy in, our little spy. All right. So Anthony, is there anything else you want to talk about, or is that it?
No, that's it.
All right. So with that, please remember to like, share, subscribe. You can follow us at Tatami Talk on Instagram. You can follow us on Tatami Talk on YouTube. You can follow us at Tatami Talk on the threads. You can follow us at Tatami Talk there's only 3 that we have right now. I don't have anything else for us. The Facebook, I don't do anything with it. So yeah, don't do that. You want to follow me? You follow me at @Jerry_Juan on Instagram. You follow Anthony Throws on Instagram. You want to send us anything to talk about, things to comment, tell us that we're idiots, that we don't know what we're talking about, a bunch of freaking Hollywood fools here. You can send us that at tatamitalk@gmail.com.
I wish they actually did that so that you would see it too and not just send it to me in Instagram.
Well, I get some stuff too on the gram sent to us sometimes. I ignore it half the time. Like, whatever, I say, you don't know. Bunch of Americans, you guys are so stupid. Anthony also has a Substack. How's that going for you?
I've been, so the funny thing is I was gonna work on it while I was on the plane, but because I flew business class, I just slept through the whole thing.
Anthony actually flew business. He actually had room for his legs this time and stuff. He leaned back. He put up the partition on his wife so she didn't bother him.
Usually I stay awake the whole time, so I thought I would have time to work, but yeah, so and I was jet lagged, so I'll it's good. Like some people actually ask me when the negative reinforcement post is going to come out soon. That one I'm gonna cite a lot of sources from a book I use, so that's taking up some time, but yeah, it's doing good. Yeah.
All right, so like always, don't forget to
stop knee wrestling. For the love of God, please stop knee wrestling and slap
back to back wrestle instead.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
And slap the mat.